This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, let's do this, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Busy show today. Blue Jays collapse. Jets Sens final preseason game tonight. Bombers getting ready for the BC Lions, the biggest game of the season tomorrow. And a visit from the president of the Sea Bears on their amazing first season in Winnipeg. Going to be a fun one. Great to have you all with us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Shout out to the podcast listeners. Get on over to winnipegsportstalk.com if you're looking for links for our Winnipeg Jets ticket pack. Again, that's going to get going, in a couple weeks, October 17th. Pierre-Luc Dubois' return for our first game with the WST crew, and a big thanks to everyone that's already jumped on that as well. And of course, shout out to everybody with us on YouTube right now. Speaking of YouTube, if you look at that number right there under Winnipeg Sports Talk, 9.98, we are less than 20 subs from the elusive 10K mark. Our goal was next Wednesday, but I'll tell you what, I think we might be able to make it by this weekend. So if you haven't already, kindly, folks, hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the thumbs up. Help us get to 10K. And welcome to any new subscribers that have jumped on over the last little while. It's great to have you with us. We are talking Winnipeg sports and everything sports for a couple hours every Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. live on YouTube. And again, if you found us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the podcast as well, because if you can't catch us live on YouTube or you're working, that podcast will be up and ready for you with our fresh content just in time for your drive home from work Monday to Friday. Great stuff today. Before we bring in Michael Remis, a big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Our friends at Coolbet Canada just finished up the lock shop talking Bombers, Lions, and more with Dusty. You can check that on the Edmonton Sports Talk feed, as well as Princess Auto, Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and the Winnipeg Jets, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Vita Health Fresh Market, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aquatech, and Modern Man Barbershop. And a special shout out to Modern Man. My hair is much more presentable today than it was. I actually had a hat day a couple days ago, but shout out to Jess and the great staff at Modern Man Pembina for a cut yesterday. And let's get Michael Remis in here. Reem, I've got a funny story to tell you about that cut. I went in after the show yesterday, and my appointment was at 4:30. So it was in the middle of the Blue Jays game. And very kindly, they threw the Blue Jays game up on the television. So I'm watching the game. You know, it was 0-0 at the time, getting my hair cut, chit-chatting. One of the other barbers, Cordell, came by, and I was talking to him for a bit. But while I was getting my hair cut, I had to take my glasses off so I could see what was happening. But, you know, with the distance of the TV, I wasn't seeing things as clearly as normal. I could see there was something going on in the mound. I put my glasses back on at the end of the haircut and looked closely and went, what the hell is Kikuchi doing in the game? Now, everybody knows I'm a huge Kikuchi fan, but I also saw what Berrios was doing through his first 47 pitches, and I was speechless. Because I'd missed it, I assumed that maybe he got hurt. Well, then I fired up Twitter and saw the first 8 of 10 tweets being everyone involved in this decision must be fired, and realized that it was one of the most perplexing baseball decisions we've seen in years. In the end, it didn't really matter. They gave up the 2 runs then, but they didn't score. And once again, that is the Blue Jays season in a nutshell. Really solid pitching, strange managerial decisions, at least one boneheaded blunder on the base paths. no clutch hitting, and a disappointing finish.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this Jets-Sens game tonight. What's going on, Huss? We'll get to that, but everyone wants to come here and rant about the Blue Jays. Oh. What was that yesterday, Huss? And as you said, it summed up the season pretty well. And, I mean, Berrios dealing 47 pitches, and you're like, well, and you look at the box score, you're like, well, did he get hurt? No. Was the stuff looking off? No. He, walked one guy, and they took him out. And, look, we can all agree they scored 0 runs. You're not going to win, but I think you kind of lost. You lose the team. Everyone's standing around being like, what the hell are we doing here? The broadcasters who work for the ownership are like, what is going on? We don't agree with this at all. The guy was dealing. Let it play out. And I think a lot of it can be compared to when the Rays took out Blake Snell in the World Series a couple years ago. Everyone was like, well, why are you taking him? I think that was somewhat defensible because, look, third time through the order, third time, and he was, 6th inning. He doesn't go deep into games. This wasn't that deep. It was in the 4th inning. It was 47 pitches. It was 47 pitches. His stuff was looking electric. He's pitching in for his former home stadium in Target Field. He's comfortable. Let him go. It's just so bizarre, and I think that's part of the reason why the Blue Jays just seem so unlikable, Hustler. These decisions like this, I'm seeing a lot of people calling for firing management. I'm curious to see what happens. It was just such an odd decision, and I love seeing all the criticism across the board. On the U.S. broadcast, Michael K and A-Rod, and Michael K is like, bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them. And look, they scored 0 runs, so this isn't why they lost, but it was certainly a turning point in the game. And yeah, as you mentioned, the base running errors. I mean, Vlad getting picked off, you can't do that. You can't have that happen. And they had runners in scoring position in multiple innings, weren't able to cash. They scored 2 runs in 2 games and had 1 extra base hit in 2 games. You can't win like that. So I think in the end, the Blue Jays were in the 2 games who they were throughout the season. It's just everyone was just baffled when they took out Berrios.
Well, my one takeaway is that John Schneider is a puppet. There is 0 chance that a baseball lifer like John Schneider would, on his own volition, yank his starter. A guy they're paying $131 million, by the way, to, with their season on the line after 47 pitches, just on his own thoughts or whims. I mean, this is analytics run amok. And listen, there is absolutely a space for analytics. And in baseball, maybe more than all the other sports because of what a numbers game it is and how much information we have. But this is also a game played by human beings. And the computer might tell you a whole bunch of things that you will look at and say, well, maybe that will help us win a game. The effect that had on the team, and we heard it afterwards. Bo Bichette, Whit Merrifield didn't hold back. He said it was, they couldn't believe it was happening. And listen, again, this is not to take any of the heat off of their lack of any sort of clutch hitting whatsoever. But that one blew up on them big time. And it's going to take a long time to get over. And in a lot of ways, Remis, I'm not sure, how any of those people really survive. Now, I've been talking to some guys in Toronto this morning. They think that, they'll keep going forward and they'll be safe. Schneider might be a scapegoat. Probably shouldn't be. Although some would argue maybe you should have been fired earlier. That's a conversation for another day. I do like what you mentioned, though, about the broadcaster. Rogers owns the Blue Jays. Many times Rogers is accused of, their staff essentially being borderline cheerleaders for the Blue Jays. Almost like you would have a home broadcast be in a local market. That was not the case yesterday. Buck Martinez absolutely lit into them during the game while it was happening. The post-game show afterwards was full of the most direct criticism I've heard for everybody involved in a long time. Ken Reed cracked me up yesterday. He was hot. And And that's just not something you would see. And it speaks to the level of angst, anger, disappointment, and in the end, failure of a team that had so much promise going into this season. Ended up getting a level of pitching that nobody could have imagined, especially when you think of the flameout of Manoah this year. And with all that money in the lineup and all those bats, they just could not get it done. And this will be the longest offseason in a long time for the Toronto Blue Jays. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah. And I'm curious, there's going to be some changes, some free agents. It was, spectacular flameout for them, Huss. I mean, they had the disappointing postseason last year, losing to Seattle, blowing that lead. They wanted to get redemption. They made offseason changes. They wanted to get, they improved the pitching. They got Chris Bassett. They tried to improve the defense, but the hitting took a step back in terms of runs, in terms of home runs. And now, the Twins, they lost 18 straight playoff games. Their drought is over. I actually listened to the Score North here on YouTube post-game show. There were fans calling in, crying that they won. It was actually it was an incredible listen. For Blue Jays now, they've lost 7 postseason games in a row. And this Shapiro, Ross Atkins era hasn't been as successful. And you look over what Alex Anthopoulos is doing with the Braves, who are the best team in baseball, who won the World Series 2 years ago. I think fans have a hard time finding this team likable because of who the general manager is. And I don't know what they're going to say if any changes, but I don't think the players bought into that move yesterday, and it showed on the field. And I think all the fans are finding it hard to buy into the team. But hey, they've done great renovations, Huss, on Rogers Center, and the ticket prices have doubled in the last 5 years. So the business is good. I think that's what the Rogers shareholders care about, Huss.
Yeah, well, listen, Mike was at the game, Mike McIntyre.
He's hot.
And listen, we will get to Jets talk with Mike, but it might be a minute. We're going to need to let him vent because he and Ken were there. I cannot wait to have Mike jump on with us. And we're also going to have Brandon Rewucki coming up first. I know Brandon will have some takes on it, and we'll get the latest on the Jets heading into this final preseason game. Listen, we're going to hear from Rick Bowness in a moment about this game tonight, but there is some news right out of the gate today, Remo, and it's not necessarily about tonight's game or what the roster might look like on the 11th when the team starts the season in Calgary, but it involves arguably the number 1 defense prospect in the organization, Elias Salomonsson, and there was lots of talk this week about where he'd be playing this week. He was assigned to the Manitoba Moose. Reports out of Sweden and elsewhere that this was basically in the hands of the Winnipeg Jets as to where Elias would play this year, assuming that he's not on the NHL team. Yesterday was looking like he might be here for a while. Well, that's not the case. He is going back to Skellefteå of the SHL, where he played last year as an 18-year-old and played very, very well in a top Swedish league against men on one of the top teams. And I have to say it, selfishly, a little disappointed because I was really looking forward to being able to go to Moose games and see Elias kind of develop here. But it's hard to argue with his development up until this point, the season that he had last year, obviously his comfort level. I would imagine the player and his agent probably involved in this decision a little bit. So while it is the Moose's loss, I have a feeling for the player and the organization and his long-term future, this is probably, at the just barely 19 years old, probably a move that makes a lot of sense for both the team and the player.
Yeah, turned 19 on August 31. And I think it makes sense. We were kind of speculating, will he stay with the Moose? But hey, go home, stay there for another year, and then come back. So that was, we had speculated on, the possibility came up this week that, maybe he can stay with the Moose and he's eligible, but they opted to go with back to Sweden. One other roster move, Jeffrey Viel was placed on waivers yesterday as well. Everyone who was placed yesterday cleared. We did mention former Jets Leon Kavanke and Nick Patan. So they cleared as well if you're following the former Jets. So that was some of the news. But the Salomonsson one came out after practice today, so we didn't really get to hear Coach or anyone talk about it.
No, exactly. We'll hear from Coach in just a second, but this is the way things look for tonight. I guess I won't make an editorial comment that this is the way the coaches are planning for the opening night, because obviously there could be some changes. But lines up front. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde. The top line will be together after a couple of those players were out last game. Or actually, I guess all of them were out as the team dealt with the flu. No Nikolai Ehlers. Ehlers will not play in the preseason. The second line is going to be Perfetti with Niederreiter and Alex Iafallo, which will be an interesting look. And probably something they're going to need to prepare for if Nikolai Ehlers can't start the season or gets injured throughout the year. The third line looks very familiar. It's Barron, Lowry, and Appleton. Appleton scheduled to start on the right side with Adam Lowry. The plan was that Iafallo would be in that spot while Ehlers plays with Perfetti and Niederreiter, which would have moved Barron to the third line. But David Gustafsson gets into the lineup. He's going to be on the left side with Kupari and Nemetsnikov. Gustafsson, essentially all three left wingers moving up a spot, 2, 3, and 4, with Ehlers off of the line. And then the defense pairings. Morrissey and DeMello, Samberg and Pionk, Dillon and Heinola, and I guess Stanley and Schmidt aren't in the game tonight, are they? They're I mean, I know those were how they were skating right now. Or they're going to be dressing because it's preseason 8D?
Yeah. What do you mean? They're not. What are you talking? Who are you reading it from? Oh, that was just how they practiced Stanley and Schmidt as the fourth pair. Yeah, they're not. They're not in.
So they're not in tonight. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, expanded rosters.
No, I got the lines on the screen here.
So Villy's getting another chance, and he'll be playing with Brendan Dillon. And take from that what you will. We'll hear from Rick Bowness in a moment. But Villy's going to get another chance, and he'll be playing with Brendan Dillon on that third pairing. And one more chance for Villy. I love the fact that you put Villy in the thumbnail today, Remis. That'll be very popular with many Winnipeg Jets fans. And listen, he's had a really solid camp. He had that goal against Calgary last week. Has continued to show that he does belong. But as we mentioned, there's a lot of things working against Ville Heinola situationally when it comes to waivers and whatnot. And really, the onus is on him to continue to make this decision very, very difficult for the Winnipeg Jets. And he's got one more chance to do it tonight, playing alongside Big Brendan Dillon.
Yeah, one thing about Nikolai Ehlers, you're seeing a lot of, how can he be out with neck spasms? Scott Billick tweeting out today on Wednesday, Ehlers said there's more to the neck injury than spasms. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if I can speculate, but I think there's more. Seems to be more going on than just a neck spasm. But Ville Heinola, he's played great. Him and Dillon, love it. It's like a Nintendo ice hockey. So you got the big guy with the skinny guy. He's moving the puck well, skating well, looking stronger. We've talked all week how he's earned a shot here. And with Schmidt, coming back from an injury, and Stanley, getting passed on the depth chart, I think the door is certainly open for Ville Heinola, and looking forward to seeing what he can bring tonight. And what more do they really need to see from? I think your decision is probably made. What if he has a total stinker? Oh no, you don't make the team. I think the body of work, the prospect that he is, I'm sure they have a pretty good idea of what they can expect. So you'd like to see another solid game here from them.
He's played a lot. The one thing that I think we have to realize, and listen, I mean, I want the young man to succeed. I'd love to see him in the lineup. I mean, we've kind of talked about that all week. But a game like this against a pretty much legit NHL club, is important again. I mean, I hesitate to take too much from some of these games, especially early in the preseason, because, I mean, a lot of times you're playing against AHL level competition. Now, that's not to take away anything that he's done so far. He's come as delivered and done what he's done. But I do think that if the onus is on the player in this case to prove that he's better than the other guys, you got to do it against the best of the other teams. And, this is that opportunity for Ville Heinola tonight. As far as Nikolai Ehlers goes, he, along with Nikkanen, Ford, Capobianco, LB, Johnson, Fjallby, and Chisholm were skating in a side group this morning. And the power play, for what it's worth, is going to look like this. Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo, and Villardi, and Josh Morrissey. PP2 is this is a pretty exciting group. Perfetti, Villi, Nino, Niederreiter, Vlad Nemetsnikov. Is that right? Brendan Dillon?
No, Pionk.
Oh, Pionk, excuse me. What am I thinking about? There you go. So that's the way things look for tonight. And you just mentioned Ehlers Ream. I kind of have to agree with you. This is just weird. I mean, he's been fully cleared by the team. We talked about it yesterday when Rick Bowness was speaking about it. And it's about if Nick feels ready and well enough to play. And Rick said there's nothing more than I'd love for him to come in the next morning and say, you know what, I'm good to go. I'm ready to play. Well, that hasn't happened. He's skating in the side group. And again, we're not going to get much information on this on a daily basis. But considering the injury history of Nikolai Ehlers, combined with how damn important he is to this team and how good he is when he's on the ice, I have to say this feels a little ominous going into the season, and it is somewhat. It reminds me of some situation that he's had in the past few years, and that's not good for a team that needs to have a great start to the season.
Yeah, Jeff brought it up earlier this week. It feels like last year where they said he was going to be out for a short time, and then he ended up having surgery for a hernia, a sports hernia, and he was out for a while. So, and then, he came back, played well, and got hit by, I thought it was a cheap shot from Ryan Hartman, which we can't wait till the Wild come back to Canada Life Center. But again, it does feel a bit deja vu here, and I don't know if it's there could be a number of reasons why you're getting neck spasms or whatever else is going on. So hope he's okay. Hope he can come back, but they're waiting till he feels 100%, and. So we'll see what happens. I will see us. I mean, it's hard to evaluate. Iafallo's getting a big shot here, taking his spot on the line, and we'll see. And you did mention, I'll just throw up the Sens lines. They're bringing, bringing basically their normal lineup. But get a nice look at Tarasenko here in a Sens uniform. Kachuk, Stützle, Giroux, Joseph, Grieg, Tarasenko, Kubalik, offseason addition, Chardy, and Josh Bailey, who's now on the Sens. Who else we got sent? Their defense is pretty much the regular. I
completely forgot Josh Bailey was on Ottawa.
He I think he signed a PTO. I'm not sure, but yeah, we're not getting Drake Paterson and Josh Norris. He's kind of been, their Nikolai Ehlers, where they signed him to a big deal, and he's had double shoulder surgery. He hasn't played in preseason, but their defense looks, the new contract, Jake Sanderson, Artem Zub, Shabbat, Chikrin, Brandstrom, Hamonic. So they got their regular D there, and they got two and a half forward lines here. So we'll see what happens with this game.
And Anton Forsberg and Korpisalo, the netminders, looks like Forsberg's going to be the guy, but we'll see what happens tonight. We do have a bunch of Rick Bowness. We'll save that for maybe in between Brandon and Mike or afterwards. But just before we get to Brandon, quick Bomber news. Roster coming out today. We knew that this team was exceptionally healthy, as are the BC Lions heading into the one for all the marbles in the West tomorrow night. But Remo, we do have confirmation, and this is, we've been talking about the bad news we've been getting on the Jet side of things with Ehlers being out. Finally, the news that Bomber fans have been waiting for a long time. Janarion Grant back. A huge, huge boost to the Bombers' return game, which has really struggled while he's been on the 6th game.
Yeah, we know the return game, it struggled. You look at other teams, Huss against the Bombers, they're the ones going with their long returns, and we just haven't seen that. And Janarion Grant, he's a dynamic guy. He also helps out in the receiving game a bit as well. But as a returner, big plays, breaking tackles. We've been waiting for him because they have had struggles. So nice to see him back. There was one other Bombers note as well. They released a number of players. The most notable one, Carlton Agudosi, and I was there for the Agudosi 2-touchdown game where you thought he was the next Calvin Johnson. He went up there with his big frame and just snatched balls out of the air against Calgary, and then he got injured and just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I mean, they have so many receivers, didn't get a chance. I'd like to see him go somewhere because he looked magical. And I don't know what words I can use, Hustler, for that one game. It was, you're like, this guy is a secret weapon in the end zone.
Get this guy. Oh my God, what's he going to do? And he was in the lineup at the start of this season while guys were hurt. Didn't click it, has been on the practice roster, and now has been released by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But good news, Janarion Grant back. We'll get to that a little bit more later on, and of course be all over that game tomorrow before that 9 p.m. kickoff on Friday night for Winnipeg and BC from BC Place. All right, Brandon Rewucki coming up. Speaking of great hair, Brandon Rewucki, shout out to our friends at Modern Man Barber Shops. I was there yesterday. Great spot. It's at the new one on Pembina. Got the Blue Jays game up on the TV. Toby, the cutest dog, hanging around, making everyone smile. But listen, there's a Modern Man close to you. Now with 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the new location on Pembina, right by Bishop, where I was at, or the new one over on Plessy Road. Modern Man barbershops offer a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. You can book your look via modernmanbarber.com and make an appointment at any of the 8 locations. Make sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Modern Man Barbershops. Well, it does officially look like we can stick a fork in pool season around here, folks, although we did have some nice weather right into October. If you're thinking pools for next year, obviously you're thinking Aquatech. But what you might not know is that whole home renovations start with Aquatech as well. With thousands of renos as their foundation, Aquatech can upgrade any space in your home. If you are ready to enhance your kitchen, your bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. And hey, with pool season and all that nice weather behind us, it's time to get ready for winter, everybody. What's your battery situation? Hey, Manitoba Battery got us through the summer with the best prices in town on batteries for the boats and ATVs and lawn tractors and campers. Now it's time to get through and survive the Winnipeg winter. Is your battery ready to do that? Well, you can find out by popping into Manitoba Battery at 1026 Logan Avenue and getting it tested. And if you need a new one, you'll get the best price in town, bar none, beating the pants off the big box stores. Even better yet, if you don't have to head down there, they'll deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's that easy. So make sure your car and trucks are ready for winter. Manitoba Battery's got you covered. Order online and find out more on everything they've got at manitobabattery.com. You can give them a call at 783-8787 or pop down and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. And hey, Bombers on the road this week, but it's a late Friday night game. Might be a good time to mix in a little bit of the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with your Friday night plans. Of course, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can stock up for the weekend at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And don't forget, Canadian Club and ginger ale premixed cocktails available in 473 milliliter cans at your local Manitoba liquor mart. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in here. We'll get to a little bit of Jets talk and more. Brandon, what's going on? How are you, my friend?
We're battling today. We're battling, but doing good. How's it going over there?
Well, listen, I want to talk about hockey, but I have a hard time not starting off every conversation I have with literally anybody about what the hell was going on yesterday in that Jays-Twins game and how that season is over 27 hours after starting the preseason. And as much as, I'm a big Kikuchi guy. He's had an unbelievable season. An unconscionable decision to take out Berrios 47 pitches into a start where he was absolutely dealing for completely no reason.
I don't know if I've ever been more relieved of a season ending from a team that I've enjoyed following than that game. I mean, that was just, you could not have picked a more season-defining game than that loss to the Twins. It's just infuriating. I'm so glad it's over, first and foremost. But you're right. Maybe I shouldn't say intelligence level. The decision-making from the top of the organization right down to the players is beyond abysmal in Bush League. it was just stunning to watch that there. And I totally get the fact that, the Jays offense is ultimately what did them in all year long. It's what did them in the series, right? You don't score a run in this game, whether Berrios was in for 9 or not, you're not going to win the game. But, man, I just can't imagine being a player on that bench, seeing the manager go up to the pitcher there and not being completely deflated on the Blue Jays side and being jacked as hell on the Twins side. It's just there are no numbers or analytics to back that decision up. I'm sorry, I don't get it. And it's not like you're throwing in Kikuchi, a guy that's your bullpen ace. You know what I mean? Like, it's a starter that's not used to coming out of the pen, that didn't pitch all that well down the stretch. And you're right. Everybody that had a pair of eyeballs saw what was going on with Berrios in that game. It's not like it was the 7th or 8th inning. It's not like it was 100 pitch. None of it made any sense. And you just knew it was over once that decision was made. The 2 runs happen, it's over. And then to top it all off, Vladdy, his brain just leaves his body at second. It's just unconscionable decision after the other. And I'm with the players, man, after the game. And even I kind of feel a little bit bad for John Schneider too, in a sense, even though.
Oh, I think he's a puppet.
Zero
chance
right?
he made that call. Zero chance that's for him. No. This guy's a baseball lifer. Even the concept of taking out a guy that you've got to sign for 7 years at $131 million was a huge part of the reason why your team is even in the place that they are with how bad the hitting was this year. And throwing smoke in a place that means a lot to him. I mean, he was so up for this game. It's indefensible, but let's face it. Schneider will be a fall guy for this, but there's probably a couple other guys that should be in the boat with him.
Yeah, and I'm with why I said I'm with the players. I mean, Bo Bichette pretty much called out management without specifically calling them out, saying we need to be better top to bottom. Well, who's at the top? It's Shapiro and Atkins, right? And
those weren't even veiled references. Yeah, everyone knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. Schneider as well. I do feel bad for him. I think it is time for him to go. But I did feel bad for him being up there. Be like, look, what did you want me to do? Like, I have orders. I'm gonna get canned either way. Either I don't listen to them, I'm gone. I listen to them, we lose, I'm gone. So I'm in a brutal position, anyways. But it's. I go back with this team, and it's the mistake that I feel like people should be still talking about, and just that letting Alex Anthopoulos go was a monumental error by the Blue Jays organization.
The guy that's in charge of
yeah. Has he ring with the Braves? Two different organizations, two different World Series teams.
Yeah, one for both hands since he left to Toronto. It was, what a disappointing way. Anyways, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I'm sure that'll be a topic for, every Jays discussion over the course of what's going to seem like an endless offseason. We'll talk about that decision, but also about what really, really killed them this year. And that was the most underwhelming offensive season from a team that was capable of so much more. Brandon, let's get to the Jets. We'll talk about Philly and the defense in that situation in a minute. What do you make of this Nikolai Ehlers situation, and how active are your spidey senses tingling about his status, if you will, cleared by the team, but just apparently not feeling well enough to play going into now the final preseason game, which he'll miss, and not even getting to the ice once with Cole Perfetti before hopefully he's ready to go for next Wednesday.
Yeah, I get to go from a 10 on the infuriated meter down to a 9.5 with this. Look, there's a very real possibility that and maybe it's the most likely thing that's going to happen here, is that he's got a bit of a twinge, a pull, whatever it is with his neck. The team's being safe. Game 1 of the season starts. Everything's fine. This is a non-issue by the time December rolls around. But I mean, going back to the playoffs last year with the mystery around whatever was bothering Nicky then, combined with the fact that, I mean, this is a problem going back 4 or 5 years, Huss, where a player is deemed day-to-day, and that day-to-day all of a sudden turns into 6 to 8 weeks. And it's really hard for me to not have major concerns about Ehlers' readiness at this point for the early start of the season. Yeah, it is a major issue, and the neck is a pretty big deal when it comes to the body of a professional athlete. So I'm pretty concerned, to be honest. And I think a lot of it is just, once again, there's not a whole lot of clarity coming from the team on this issue. So we'll see what happens here.
Well, the clarity is what is the most concerning of all of this. I mean, Rick Bowness has been pretty upfront saying, like, the doctors have said he's good to go. He's been cleared. Like, this isn't the team coming and saying, you know what, he missed some early time in the preseason. We just want to be careful and not have anything happen in this game. We'd rather have him go out there next week. Like, I could live with that. I'd feel a hell of a lot better if they had said that. But they've said that they're just hoping he can come in and say he feels good enough. Like, they're saying he's good to go. He's not. Like, something doesn't compute. And I mean, you can't help, as fans of the Winnipeg Jets or people that have a stake in this team, to wonder if there's more to it and to legitimately worry that 27 might not be in that lineup in game number 1. And if that's the case, who the hell knows where this goes the rest of the season?
Yeah, and that's the clarity for me, is just it goes back to that playoff run where it kind of feels like you almost wonder, are the two sides communicating with each other on this? Because it was a similar sort of thing in the playoffs. It might have been reversed, actually. I think Ehlers was saying, I'm ready to go, and he wasn't given the go-ahead by the organization.
Exactly.
So
this is different.
I wish I could give you an answer. I don't have one. I don't have a good one. It's just concerning. That's the only thing. And my thing with the way this team has dealt with injuries in the past, again, my concern is that this seemingly day-to-day issue turns into something that becomes much longer than that. For a guy that's missed a ton of time over the past couple of seasons and he's just massively important. I mean, the second line, in my opinion, is ultimately going to be what determines how far this team goes this season. You know, if they can provide legitimate support behind what we assume will be a pretty consistently performing top line there. So it's alarm bells all over the place. I wish it could be positive news, but I do have to still kind of maintain a little bit of Occam's razor here and go, okay, what's the simplest thing? Maybe it is just, let's get past the preseason and regular season. I'll be ready to go. So I'm hopeful that that's the case, but I think it's more than fair for any fan of the team to say, I'm not gonna believe it until I see it out there for game 1.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, this is a preseason game. We need to remember that. Chances are he's going to miss some games this year, and, with new players in the lineup, maybe it's not the worst thing to have Cole Perfetti get, some reps with Iafallo and Niederreiter on his wings. If that's the case, that's the way the lineup will look like without Nikolai Ehlers. But I'll tell you what, the thought, and again, we won't get to this, and maybe I'm getting, too far away. It's impossible not to think about it, though, considering the way last season went, the playoffs, I mean, all those things. They need this guy. I mean, he's so good when he is out there. He's so important to the team, especially to a second line with a brand new center. And I mean, no one else that has the offensive ability that he brings to the table when he's out there. It is a concern, and it's a little eerie. And again, just fingers crossed that this is, we're overreacting, and come next week, Nikolai Ehlers will be there and can help the Jets win some hockey games. So here's the roster tonight. Morrissey, DeMello, Samberg and Pionk, and Dylan and Billy Hainela. Stanley out, Schmidt out, Chisholm out. Rick Bowness said last week that, Billy Hainela is going to have opportunities in these last 2 games to, sort of make the team. By all accounts, strong last game, scored a nice goal against, a legit Calgary team. Where are you at with Billy's quest to be on the squad and in the lineup to begin this season?
I'm stunned. I didn't think it was going to happen, to be honest. I thought even with his strong performance, probably leading up to the Calgary game earlier this week, I thought it was just going to be a case of, the Jets have this log jam at defense that they've chosen not to rid themselves of by their own choosing, and that he was just going to be the victim of a numbers game. So I'm pleasantly surprised that, by all accounts, Hainela is going to be not only a Winnipeg Jet, but a game 1 starter for the team. and he's earned it.
Do you think that's the case? Is that what you're taking from it? Like it was funny. We talked to Marat yesterday, and Marat said it's 50-50 that he's on the roster, and actually went with 0 for in the first night. Now, I don't think I wouldn't put it at 0, but I still worry that maybe we're making too much about the team obviously giving him an opportunity in this game, but knowing what he's up against, the contracts, the salaries, the waiver exemption, everything that we went through. I still think that he needs to have a massive game tonight and continue doing what he's been doing and essentially make the decision for them, one that I don't think they were planning on making when camp broke.
No, exactly. And I do believe that this is going to be the game one lineup. I mean, every other play on the lineup is going to be set up for game one, right? Like, these are the lines that we've seen. These are the deep pairings that we've been expected. Why should we think anything differently just because it's a Heinola in there instead of a Nate Schmidt? So I fully expect him to be, barring a catastrophic performance here, I think he's going to be one of the Jets' 6 defensemen to start opening night. And I do think he's earned it as well. The only shame with his performance, Huss, is that this didn't happen last year. Because if this would have happened last year, we would have had about 60, 70 games of Heinola at the NHL level to figure out more so what he's going to be. But he's been everything that I think the team would have hoped for. He's outplayed the defensemen that are currently below him in the pecking order, even though I think Declan Chisholm's had a pretty efficient camp, maybe not an eye-opening one, but I think he's been just fine. And I think at this point, in terms of roster decisions, we're going to see 2 of Capobianco, Stanley, and Chisholm ultimately waived by the team when rosters need to be submitted on Monday, which 2 of the 3, I do not have much of an inkling as to who that's going to be. But I think at this point, and I think Bones has to kind of put his money where his mouth is, where he said, Heinola got a chance to earn this spot here. Well, he's gone out there and done it. And I think he's going to be Brandon Dillon's partner, especially the fact that he's playing on his offside there. Not set in stone for the rest of the season. Not going to be shocked if him and Nate Schmidt alternate over the first 10 games or so, maybe an even split. I don't know. But I just think it's an immense disservice to this team when you say that we want to be a winning hockey club this year. And by all accounts, Ville Heinola is one of your 6 best defensemen as of right now. And not putting him in the lineup would be a lie to that line of thinking that you've gone with all offseason long.
Okay, so let's say he has a great game, and that's exactly the case, and he's going to be on the roster, and whether he's in or out of the lineup, we'll see. But he's on the 23. How do they get there? What happens to all the other guys? And how nervous do you feel if Declan Chisholm hits the waiver wire? Considering a lot of other guys in similar positions are passing through right now, as always happens this time of year.
And it's somehow the Jets guys that always get claimed, right? Like, yeah. I would have thought Bernard Docker from Ottawa would get a claim, right? And I mean, a little bit more pedigree than Declan Chisholm in terms of where he was drafted a few years back. But he was able to get through waivers there. I mean, maybe it's just the Jets' luck, but I don't think Declan Chisholm clears if they put him down. I get the sense right now that the Jets are going to try to sneak him through. It's a wild gamble, and I just completely disagree with it. But they put themselves in this situation by not alleviating the logjam earlier this offseason. So who are going to be and I do think the Jets go with 8 defensemen to start the year. I think it's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I think Logan Stanley is going to be one of the 8. The organization, from the organization's perspective, I think they feel like they've invested a lot of time and resources into him, and I don't think they're going to pass him through just yet. And I mean, Capobianco might be a guy that you can clear through waivers, and I think we talked about this last week. He's been a great soldier for this team. If you lose him, that's kind of the way it goes, and you can probably find somebody similar as the season goes along. But man, I think it's a really, really risky game going with the Declan Chisholm on waivers if that's ultimately what they do. And it would be wild as well, as because try the same thing last year with Kovacevic, you get burned. I mean, you think you learn your lesson after it happens in a negative sense the first time, but I don't know. Maybe that's the spidey sense for me.
Who's more likely to get claimed on waivers, Chisholm or Stan?
I think it might. I think they both get claimed. I just personally, I feel like Chisholm has a higher ceiling at the NHL level right now.
And we haven't seen him yet at the NHL level. I mean, that's the thing for an organization that is draft and develop, that, you know, prides itself on drafting well, putting these young men in positions to grow with the Manitoba Moose and then take that next step. I mean, listen, they've put a lot into this young man, just as you've said. He has excelled at the American Hockey League level. I think it would be a real bitter pill for everyone involved in getting him to this point if he gets his NHL opportunity with another organization.
Yeah, well, you don't develop guys so other teams can benefit from it. It's not draft, develop, and lose, right? Like, it's supposed to be draft and develop and have them play with you. But again, like, this is a situation going back to 2 training camps ago, Huss, where we knew there was too many vets on this roster and there were too many youngsters trying to bang down the door for a spot. And they were just caught in between, well, do we want the vets in to kind of go for a run, or do we want to open a spot or two to give the kids a chance? And this is what happens. Like, as an organization, you don't really reap the benefits of what your supposed main tenet is, which is draft and develop. And it's hard as well for me, Huss, you know, seeing the Jets struggle with this, to look at a team like New Jersey, who have Stanley Cup aspirations this year and moved on from a much more effective defenseman in Damon Severson, to give some of their young kids a chance. And not a chance, but top 4 minutes on a team
and Graves.
Yeah, right? Like, they let go a few guys. And yes, you could say that, you know, Nemec and Hughes have a lot more pedigree and upside than the Jets defensemen, and that's 1,000% true. They're also entrusting them to play 20 minutes a night right now for a cup contending team, a team that will finish with 15 more points than the Winnipeg Jets have this year. So I just don't buy the whole, you know, we can't litter our team with youngsters argument, because this is something the Jets should have been doing for a long time, and it needs to be something that gets corrected hopefully sooner than later here. But I do get the sense that by the time Tuesday and the waiver wire claims roll around, that we're going to see the Jets lose at least one defenseman, and it's not going to surprise me, barring a trade, that they lose a young defenseman for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, that is something that certainly everyone is going to be paying very close attention to as we get closer to next Wednesday and final cuts are made around the league. It is going to be it'll be tense, I'm sure, and I'm not even entirely convinced that all those decisions have been made yet. In a lot of ways, Brandon, it is going to be it's going to be very tough to make that decision either way. Because let's face it, this does go back a couple years to let's not forget when it happened, you know, those 2 moves in the offseason, coming off the season where we thought that this team was just right there, but they didn't have the depth on the blue line. They didn't, like, these young guys weren't ready. Well, they went and got Brendan Dillon and they went and got Nate Schmidt. They both had term to their contracts. And that has really complicated things. And Nate, I mean, God bless him. I mean, a great guy, fun to talk to. They needed his personality in and around the club. And at the time, he certainly was one of their top 6 guys. And very well may still be a top 6 guy, you know, based on the depth chart that they have. But again, at a certain point, if there's no turnover on that, you end up blocking your young players. They don't get an opportunity. They're essentially at a standstill. The organization's at a standstill. And I have no doubt that they would have looked into potentially trading, you know, one of those players. But it probably came with the cost of, you know, give us a first-round pick. And obviously that's not something that this organization can do or wants to do. And they're stuck in a pretty unique situation. Well, we'll see what happens tonight, and all eyes on number 14 in particular, and then all eyes on the general manager as we get final clarity on this roster going into next week. Great stuff, as always, man. Fill people in on what's coming up on Skates and Plates as we get ready for the opening of the regular season next week.
Yeah. New episode tomorrow, breaking down the big one tonight, and then next one on Tuesday, season preview show. So full-on predictions, all that good stuff. Should be interesting. By the way, Huss, we do our bold prediction show that I mentioned. 32 bold predictions for each team. My brother Tyson, who works with CJOB, has already nailed one before the season started. and this is not a lie, he said Mike Babcock would not last the season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. That was 2 days before the number 2 hit the fan there. So our bold predictions have worked out okay so far. We'll see if like the legit ones can match up with what we got going on there so far.
Anybody making a bold prediction of 108 points and home ice in the first round of the playoffs?
Not with the team in Winnipeg. Maybe a different team.
We'll look forward to checking it out, folks. Get to Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thanks for doing this, B.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one, man.
Right on. There's Brandon Rewucki. We were going to stay on the Jets. Well, and we will take a quick detour into Blue Jays land. Mike McIntyre's coming up, and of course, he and Kenny Wiebe were at the game. But as we talk with the Jets, folks, do not forget, next Saturday, well, a week Saturday, is the Winnipeg Jets home opener. Just announced Patrick. And I will say this, a band called Wicked Awesome is going to be doing, they're a rock cover band. I have seen them before. Absolutely hilarious and very entertaining. But Patrick's going to be doing the anthems, going to be playing at the party in the plaza. That's from noon until 2:30 before the home opener. Tons of entertainment, DJs, the bands I mentioned, cultural performances, food and bev from the Hargrave Street Market vendors. So get your tickets for the home opener and make a plan to be at the party in the plaza with your fellow Jets fans getting ready for the season on the 14th. And if you haven't already, gang, we've got a few seats left for our Winnipeg Sports Talk ticket pack. 4 games. The Kings on the 17th of October, Oilers the 30th of November, Saturday night against the Leafs in January, Thursday night in April against the Calgary Flames. Get to the link, winnipegsportstalk.com. If you're listening to the podcast, click it there. If you're with us on YouTube, in the description is a link. We've had amazing response from WSTers on this, and there's still room for a few more of you. So join us, click the link, and we'll look forward to getting the crew together pre-game outside Section 316 and 317 on the 17th of October. Hey, shout out to our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market. Great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest selection of local products, too. Online ordering available, and same-day delivery if you order by 11 a.m. And right now, get a free gift when you place an order for $100 or more at myvita.ca. Vita Health, proud local company, family-owned since 1936. Empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 locations and online at myvita.ca. Well, big changes with the season right now. You know, Wallace & Wallace are the fencing experts and have been that way for over 7 decades here in Winnipeg. What you might not know is that they're also the experts in overhead doors. And your overhead door had lots of ups and downs this summer, working hard to get you and your family to all the fun things you did. Well, it's about to work a heck of a lot harder because winter puts much more stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Call Wallace & Wallace to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today. For residential and commercial overhead door sales and service, there's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. Find them online at wallacedoors.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. Just before we bring in Mike, how's the closet looking, gang? Change of seasons, maybe a change of look. If you need to up your menswear game, you know where to go. F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. And if you are getting married or in a wedding party, talk to the gang at F for a 15% discount when the wedding party gets your suits at F Apparel. It's all there at 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more on what F has available for you or make an appointment to come in online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's get Mike McIntyre in here. Back from his roadie with his new colleague, Kenny Wiebe, down to the Twin Cities. Mike, I promise we won't spend too much time on this, but I'm sure you have takes and observations from, maybe the most appropriate way the Blue Jays could have possibly ended their season. You were there. First of all, how was it? Looked like a great atmosphere there in the Twin Cities, and certainly the home fans went home very pleased.
Yes, this is going to be a little bit of a therapy session, I think, for me and other Blue Jays fans. It's one thing to lose. It's another to lose the way the Blue Jays did. We'll get into that in a minute. The atmosphere was fantastic. Look, I'm a Twins fan as well. I've often cheered for the Minnesota Twins, and I would have been cheering for the Twins had they been playing anybody other than the Toronto Blue Jays. So let me just start off by saying I'm thrilled for the Twins, and I'm thrilled for their fans. As you know, and I'm sure most Manitobans know, absolutely great ballpark in downtown Minnie. It was 29 degrees on Tuesday afternoon. So, it didn't feel like October baseball. It felt like July baseball. And it felt like I was at an exorcism because the Twins have had some demons of their own. In fact, they had an 18-game playoff losing streak that goes back 2 decades. I believe 2004 was the last time they won. So for all the frustrations that Blue Jay fans are probably feeling after, several now years of swings and misses, and when it comes to playoffs, the Twins, they had the Jays beat, and then some. So it was like when they won Game 1, the atmosphere was just electric. The stadium was alive. Even early in Game 1, Huss, I mean, my quads are sore from constantly sitting down and standing up. Every single time they'd get a Blue Jay pitcher or a Blue Jay batter, to 2 strikes, the entire 38,000 at Target would rise. And of course, you had to stand if you wanted to see anything. So we're talking, the Jays were often at 2 strikes. There was a lot of up, down, up, down, up, down. And even just walking back to the hotel after the game, the chanting and the singing, the people were in a great mood. So I'm happy for Twins fans. And I'll say this, I'll be rooting for the Twins now to take down those cheaters from Houston and hopefully go the whole way. By the way, I had a woman sitting beside me both games. I think she's a psychic. So it's Game 1 the other day, and everyone stands when Royce Lewis comes to the plate. Now, I must admit, I haven't followed the Twins all that closely this year, but the entire crowd stands like when he comes to bat. So I turned to her and I said, "Why are we standing?" Because they hadn't for the first 2 batters. And she said, "Because he hits home runs." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I was thinking like, "Oh, this will be great when he strikes out." And I can say to her like, "But we stood for this." Well, of course, what does Royce Lewis do? He goes yard, not once, but twice in Game 1, drives in all 3 runs. He and many others enjoyed that moment and those moments. But the Blue Jays, like I said, it's one thing to lose. The self-inflicted wounds that this team, and for those of us who follow this team, kind of game in, game out, unfortunately, I guess all of us hoping that maybe we'd see a bit of a smarter, more mature Blue Jays team emerge in the playoffs. Who's the coach years ago, Huss, NFL coach, that said they are who we thought they were?
A former Vikings coach, Danny Green, although he was with the Cardinals at the time.
Very appropriate. The Blue Jays are who we thought they were. They're a team with tremendous pitching, which unfortunately doesn't get you anywhere when you have inept hitting and just brain dead base running like Vladdy Guerrero.
Every game it's something.
And when you turn your entire on-field operations over to a bunch of computers that, and algorithms, and I heard one guy, I was listening to the post-game show as we drove out of Minnie late last night with Blair and Barker, and it was an absolute gold mine. I believe it was Barker who referred to ChatGPT as running the Blue Jays, which was just tremendous because, the algorithm, I guess, told them to take Jose Barrios out of the game last night. They should have unplugged that stupid computer and relied on what they were actually seeing on the field. This is a guy who was dominating. And because some algorithm probably told them that letting him go through the order a second time was not necessarily the best, like it backfired spectacularly.
Hey, let me just quickly ask you, Mike. Yeah. I mean, you and Ken are there. I mean, it's a tight game. Oh. One guy out. He's 12 batters in. He'd look great. I mean, what were you and Ken saying when they came out and all of a sudden he was leaving? Kikuchi's rolling in.
So I don't know if they showed this at home, Huss. First inning, Berrios is on the mound. Kikuchi's warming up in the first inning. Now we can see that we're the dugout or the bullpen. Sorry, I don't know if they ever showed that on TV. But so honestly, and there was a bunch of Blue Jays fans in our section, and everyone just kind of looked at each other, even when Kikuchi was warming up, like, it's the first inning. What are you doing? And it's not like he was in any trouble. Cruised through the first and the second and the third and was about to cruise probably through the fourth. But the fact that they started warming Kikuchi up in the first inning, everybody was like, oh my God, they've overthought this. They're going to do something completely stupid. And they did. So, you know, it seems to me, Huss, this was the plan all along. It didn't matter what Jose Berrios did or didn't do. I mean, I honestly wondered if they were going to go to Kikuchi in like the second inning, the first time a lefty came up, which, as Kenny, you know, very adaptly put it, you have Chris Bassett, who was going to be the game 3 starter, or maybe he was going to be a reliever. I have no idea what they were planning to do with him yesterday. Chris Bassett won like 16 games. I think he was among the leaders in the league.
He was the leader in the AL.
You could make a valid argument that Chris Bassett was actually their best starting pitcher. If you didn't trust Jose Berrios to go at least twice through the lineup yesterday, even when he's dealing, why was he even starting in the first? Why wouldn't you start Chris Bassett then? It's just, and this idea that, well, you were saving something for game 3, you got to get through game 2 after you lost game 1 to even have a game 3. There was no tomorrow, as it turned out. It's just, and look, I know a lot of people, they're all over John Schneider, and John Schneider has done things this year as a manager that make you shake your head and scratch your head. The fact is, Huss, John Schneider probably had zilch to do with pulling Jose Berrios. He was told what to do. And for people who think, well, they should fire Schneider, if you're management and ownership, why would you fire the yes man who's going along with everything that you're telling him to do? The last thing they'd want is a manager who's going to push back and you know, an old school guy who's going to say, to hell with your computers, I'm trusting what I see. So, Schneider is kind of a scapegoat here, but he's just being a company man. The problem is the company and the way that they're running. This is Moneyball to the extreme now. This is the new Moneyball, the kind of AI or whatever you want to call it. And, it's just, and again, I'm not diminishing analytics. I think in baseball, probably more than any sport, there's real value in trends and predictability and all that. But where has the actual feel for the game gone? And what we saw yesterday just was so out of touch with reality that honestly, when they pulled Berrios at that point, it's a tie. It's still 0-0, right? I actually said to Kenny, I hope they lose. They deserve to lose. And I'm a Blue Jays fan, but I was so fed up with, and I think others were too. It was kind of like, okay, they lost me here. They deserve to lose, and they did.
Not to get into politics at all, but I will make a comparison. I mean, I often note that, in 2023, post-pandemic, the political discourse has gone from, there's a lot of moderates, there's people on the right and the left, and now everything has gone. Like the right is so extreme now, and the left is so extreme now, and they're all crazy, and it's, and it is counterproductive
absolutely
to everything. This is analytics, which certainly have some benefits to it, getting taken so far to the extreme, it defies all of common sense, much like a lot of things that have come out in political discourse over the last few years.
I've always been more of a mod. I try to see all sides. Part of it, Huss, I think 20 years of covering crime and justice. That's part of what I would sit in court every. You hear the Crown, you'd hear the defense. It's not always black and white. There are shades of gray. That's life. You can call me Moderate Mike McIntyre, Triple M maybe. But I must admit, I'm so angry at what they did here. I'm going way more to one side on this because it boggles the mind. And I couldn't help but wonder, Huss. Don Mattingly is like, I forget what his actual title with the Jays is. He's like an assistant coach or whatever. Right?
Coach, I think.
Yeah, Donnie Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He's old school. I have to wonder, like at any point when this is happening and John Schneider's going to yank Barrios out of the game, like Don Mattingly must have been inside just absolutely ready to erupt over what
he should have jumped out of the dugout and tackled him on the way to the mound.
Exactly. And so good on a couple players. Whit Merrifield's probably, I think the Jays have an option that they're probably not going to exercise. So he's gone. And I love that Whit Merrifield just kind of took the blowtorch to the decision. He kind of said, this is everything that's wrong with baseball. But you could tell, like even Laddie and Bo, like they when he came out to get him, they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
No.
And I'll tell you this, Huss, if I'm Jose Barrios, for everything I've heard about him, he's a classy guy. Like, if I'm Jose Barrios, I'm going right into management's office and saying, like, trade me. If this is how you paid me all this money.
Why the hell did you give me $131 million?
Right. And
that's what was going to happen.
Not to toot my own horn, but I'm a big reason that you're even here today. I helped get you here, and I'm fired up. I'm dealing, and this is how you treat me. And what does this say? Like, if you're the Jays and you're now trying to attract some other free agents, especially pitchers, like, why would you even want to go to an organization that handles its key pieces like this?
Well, the irony of the whole thing, Mike, is that the pitching was the reason why they got here. And I mean, I think you can make a lot of arguments that the way they handled, I mean, Manoah imploding, this guy was a Cy Young finalist last year. Right. Nowhere to be seen. Well, terrible, and then nowhere to be seen. And they did a great job of assembling a staff that came through, a bullpen that did a really good job. And again, this is the story coming out of the game.
Not the reason they lost.
The reason why they lost the game was this team just couldn't hit a damn thing whenever anything was on the line. And I mean, I have no theories on how a team with so much talent, guys that have done it in the past, couldn't do it this year. But that's going to keep a lot of people up for a lot of nights this year in that Blue Jays front office because something didn't work, and they were the least clutch team with the most opportunities, and that's why with all that talent and honestly a pitching staff that provided championship level pitching top to bottom throughout the year, why they are 2 and done and now 0-6 in the last 3 trips.
Yeah, they completely wasted it. And I do have a theory about the hitting us. I think it goes back to, again, the analytics and the micromanaging everything. I think some of these hitters from Vladdy to, they're hearing so many different things about what they're supposed to be doing at the plate. Like the concept of just letting good hitters go up and kind of get a feel for the game and do their thing, like turn them loose. I think that, Vladdy's probably got 30 people in his ear with their spreadsheets and printouts telling him everything, pulling him in a million different directions. And the end result is you get batters that go up there looking completely confused. They take pitches they should be swinging at. They swing at pitches they should be taking. I can't remember if it was Blair or Barker. Well, I'll leave you with this on this topic. They had a great line. They referred yesterday to the bottom of the lineup, specifically Chapman and Varsho, as the human air conditioners because they just go up swinging and creating a draft with their bats as they swing through the air. I thought that was a pretty fitting description of some of their
Yeah,
batters.
well, Matt Chapman cost himself a lot of money this year as well as he hits free agency. Certainly not going to get what he would have gotten a year or two ago. Well, we closed the coffin on the 2023
Glad
Blue
I got
Jays
that off my chest.
Put the poured the
better.
dirt on it, and now get ready for hockey season. Mike, all week long while you guys have been away, we've been paying close attention, obviously, to the game on Monday, Ville Heinola's performance. The fact that he is in the lineup tonight. I mean, this basically looks like the opening night roster minus Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, what's your read of this situation? We've had different opinions from different people. I mean, has Ville Heinola put himself in a position that with a strong game tonight, he's A, on the team? And if he is he B, in the lineup next Wednesday in Calgary?
I think to answer part A, absolutely. He's on the team. And B, I really do think that he's in the starting lineup at this point, Huss. And I think tonight is a real tell. Now, if he goes out and has a terrible game, does that maybe change things? I'd like to think that his leash isn't so short that they wouldn't look at the larger body of preseason work, where I think Ville Heinola has been terrific in preseason games. But tonight's going to be a good test. The Senators are bringing basically their starting lineup tonight. So, he's going to be out there against some really good NHL veteran players. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's happened here, Huss, that's maybe opened the door a little more for Ville, and to his credit, he's taken full advantage, is Nate Schmidt suffering what doesn't sound like any kind of serious injury, but it's kept him out of a couple games that he probably would have played. And I really feel like Ville Heinola has kind of jumped past Nate Schmidt on the internal depth chart. And, it's telling that Nate Schmidt was participating in morning skate today. Like, he wasn't out with Ehlers and Capobianco and the few other guys that are banged up right now. They had their own secondary skate. Nate Schmidt was with the regular group today, as was Logan Stanley, and they were wearing regular sweaters, no contact sweaters, but they were the 7th and 8th defensemen today. And I do think that's telling that, Ville's going to get the nod here in this kind of final dress rehearsal for the season. And it makes me think, Haas, that Nate Schmidt right now might be a very expensive 7th defenseman in the eyes of the organization. And we've talked about it in the past over the summer. Like, if the Jets could have traded Nate Schmidt, moved that contract without paying a premium, I think they absolutely would have. I think they've tried to move Nate Schmidt. And is there a team out there that would take him? Probably, but the Jets would have to pay a price that I don't think they're willing to pay. And so they may be in a position where they park Nate Schmidt at times. And I'm not saying Ville Heinola is going to be in the lineup 82 games this year. Like, I almost wonder if there's a bit of a rotation earlier in the season. And of course, they can do some of the same things, right? In terms of the second power play unit, like it was Pionk and Schmidt as the two defensemen with that group. Well, now tonight it's going to be Pionk and Heinola while Schmidt sits. So you could kind of make a swap there at times, Ville and Nate Schmidt. But yeah, I mean, look, Rick Bowness flat out said, we're going to make this team on merit. We're not making decisions based on contract status or seniority or whatever. It's one thing to say that, it's another to actually do it. But I think someone of Rick Bowness's, presence and experience, I get the sense he really does mean what he says. And look, if they were to go and now send Ville down to the Moose tomorrow or not have him in the lineup tonight, to me, that would make his words ring pretty hollow. And, we know Rick Bowness is all about kind of sending messages, setting the tone. And so I think he's trying to create a positive environment here where players can succeed. And if Ville Heinola, in fact, is in the starting lineup next week, then I think, he kind of his words rang true, which is how it should be.
Well, and listen, we're going to hear from Bones after we finish up this chat. But I'm just going to read a tweet from Billick. And he said, Bowness stopped short of saying Ville Heinola has won a spot on the team, suggesting that will be decided tonight. Bowness said Heinola has done everything he can to earn a spot. I mean, this can't entirely come down to one preseason game against the Ottawa Senators, can it? Or is that just him, making a point of saying that it's not all done yet? Tonight is, it's important for him to show what he can do. How did you read that? Yeah,
I didn't read that. So I know if you just look at the words, you go like, oh, that's kind of really, really putting it out there for Ville. Like, you better perform tonight or else you're out. I didn't read it that way at all from Rick Bowness. I just read it that he's not ready to say right now before the final preseason game, yeah, he's made this team, and yeah, I've got him in my top 6. I think the fact he's playing tonight is a sign of how Rick Bowness views him. And so, I think with young players, sometimes coaches, they don't want to go overboard heaping on the praise, but I think if you kind of look at Rick's entire comment on Ville Heinola, like there was a lot of praise worked in there. And, he went on to kind of talk about things that Ville's done better this year compared to last year. He's stronger, competing harder in the corners, he said, really moving the puck better than he was a year ago. So I felt kind of taking all the comments from Rick Bowness. I walked away from that scrum this morning and thinking, oh yeah, he's good. He's in. As I say, does that mean he's for sure the number 6 guy, or 5 or 6, whatever you want to say? And, he's there to stay? Well, of course not. And they're paying Nate Schmidt a lot of money, and Nate Schmidt's got a lot of miles under his belt. Nate Schmidt's going to play this year. I mean, unless the Jets can find a trade partner in short order here to maybe clear a spot. But I fully expect that Nate Schmidt's going to see a lot of games this year. I just think Ville Heinola has really worked himself into the mix. And the other part of this, Huss, that we haven't touched on yet is it may now force the Jets to not just expose one guy to waivers, which we all knew was going to happen, whether it was Kyle Capobianco, Logan Stanley, or Declan Chisholm. All things being equal, everyone being healthy, they were for sure going to have to expose one of those 3 guys. I think the belief was that Ville, because of his contract status, he doesn't need waivers. He'd go down, and then they could keep 2 of those 3. If they keep Ville Heinola, they now have to expose 2 of those 3 to waivers.
Just on that topic, yeah. Mike, I mean, let's get into that because I was just talking with Rewucki about this, and I'll preface this with saying we always, when I say we, I mean, I think people in any particular market, they know the prospects from their team, they watch them, they follow them. We inevitably often overvalue our own. That being said, I asked a lot of people at the draft if Declan Chisholm was available on waivers coming up next season, would he get picked up? And a lot of people said yes. Same goes with Logan Stanley. I mean, Stanley, I think people would think there'd be a team that as a project would say, you know what, maybe we'll give him a chance at least, whether he stays or not. I mean, again, you're taking a flyer on a guy for nothing. It's very easy to do if you've got room. Where are you on both of those players? Who's more likely to get claimed? In the case of Chisholm, who certainly seems to be the 9th defenseman right now, I hate to say it, is probably the most likely to go. Realistically, as we see all the other guys clearing through waivers, should we be as worried that Declan might be gone without ever really getting a chance to show what he can do in the NHL level if he's placed on waivers this week?
I'm more confident today than I would have been 24 hours ago about the potential to pass through. And it has to do with a guy that we might have otherwise seen play tonight at Canada Life Center in Jacob Bernard Docker, who, for those folks who don't know, he's a right shooting defenseman who's only 23 years of age, got some size, 6 foot,
first
190.
Round pick.
And he's got the pedigree. He was a first round pick in 2018, 26th overall. and he cleared waivers yesterday. And a lot of people were surprised by that, Huss. Now, the Senators, I think a couple days earlier, they lost another first rounder, though, a defenseman that they tried to get through waivers in Lassie Thompson. So there was a lot of thought that, oh my God, the Senators are going to lose 2 first rounders to waivers, defensemen. They lost one, and then they got one through. Look, I haven't seen enough of Jacob Bernard-Docker versus Declan Chisholm or even Logan Stanley to say, like, who's got the bigger upside, who's the better player right now. All I know is that a 23-year-old, 26th overall pick, who's a right shot, those guys, as we know, are pretty valuable, Huss, passed through waivers yesterday. Is that a timing thing? And it goes back to what I've often wondered, like, did GM strategically pick a day or when they think that they maybe have a better chance of sneaking a guy through?
Absolutely, they do.
Right. And so, like, I think one of the reasons, Huss, that as we sit here today, even though Stanley, Chisholm, and Capobianco, although he's been dealing with a little bit of an injury, and Chisholm as well, but all 3 of those guys aren't playing tonight. The fact they haven't put any of them on waivers yet is not a surprise, because, Huss, what if tonight, knock on wood here, but what if two of the 6 defensemen tonight get hurt?
Good point.
And suddenly can't play next week? Well, now all of a sudden you've bought yourself a little more time, right? And can you imagine the backlash if you had lost a guy on waivers and then you get an injury that you go, oh my God, we didn't have to put him on waivers right now. So I think if you're the Jets, well, you might strategically want to consider when you're going to put a Capobianco or a Chisholm, or if it's a Stanley. I think there's also value in at least waiting until after tonight's game. Make sure everyone comes out of tonight, unscathed. Does that mean that we could see as early as tomorrow a waiver move or 2? I think it's possible. Or do they wait until the weekend or even early next week when most teams at that point have probably got their 23-man roster? And I don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly a storyline to keep an eye on here in the waning days of camp.
Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, with us talking Jets. Final preseason game tonight against the Ottawa Senators. Opening game next Wednesday in Calgary. And then the home opener Saturday, October 14th, 3 p.m. at Canada Life Centre. The other thing that we've been talking about today quite a bit, Mike, is Nikolai Ehlers' status with the club. Everybody else up front is healthy. Everybody else up front is playing. He will not play tonight. All the left wingers will move up. David Gustafson slides in on that 4th line, showing that he pretty much is the 13th forward.
13th, yeah.
But I just find this one so weird in that, it was a neck spasm to start it off. He's been back. He lost the non-contact jersey. He's been cleared by doctors. And Rick Bowness has said this is basically up to him. And he's not feeling well enough to play. Like, what's going to change before next Wednesday? How concerned should fans and the organization, frankly, be about Nikolai Ehlers right now, considering he's going to go through the preseason without playing? Or is this a complete overreaction or fear based on the fact that he's so important to the club and has had some bad luck when it comes to being out of the lineup in the past?
No, I think there's reason to be concerned, Huss. And I mean, you have to go now back to last Saturday. I was at that practice at Iceplex. The Jets were coming off. They had played wherever it was last in Ottawa, I guess, the night before. But they had, preseason games coming up. And Nikolai Ehlers on last Saturday, declared himself good to go and said he was going to play the last 2 games. Practiced fully on Friday. He didn't go to Ottawa with that group, but he skated. And then he had a full practice on Saturday with Cole Perfetti and Nino Niederreiter, and talked about it's going to be exciting to finally get our line and get a couple games under our belts. Then Huss, he didn't even skate the other day prior to the game. Like, he wasn't even on the ice on Tuesday or on Monday, sorry. before they went west to Calgary. And then like yesterday, Rick Bowness says, well, it'll be Nikolai's decision. He might be a game time decision today, but then the Jets released the roster late in the afternoon and he's not even on it. And then today, like, he's not even with the main group as a potential extra guy.
Well, and Rick said on Monday, it's unlikely that he'll play on Thursday. So I mean, to me, there's a little bit more to it. And like, listen, I don't want to say Rick seems like he's getting exasperated, whatnot, but
I feel like he is.
Okay, maybe he is a little bit. Like, it's like, okay, I mean, what's the issue? And we don't really know. We haven't heard about it, but I mean, to think about how different that second line looks with and without Nikolai Ehlers is significant. Although maybe it's a good thing they got the amount of quantity back for Pierre-Luc Dubois because it seems like they're going to need it. And, you know, we were talking about, who fits better with Perfetti, Iafallo, or Niederreiter? Well, I guess we'll find out tonight because they're both going to be on his line.
They are. Now, Huss, like, if I were to handicap it, I still think it's more likely than not that Nikolai Ehlers is in the lineup next Wednesday in Calgary. I don't know. I'd say I'm 80% confident of that. But again, a few days ago, or certainly last Saturday, I would have said I was 100% confident. I would have said I was 100% confident that he was playing both preseason games this week, and he won't have played either of them. So I don't know. And again, this is a player that does have a bit of a history with injuries. And, you know, he told us last Saturday that he did this in the weight room, and it's something he's done hundreds of times without any issue. And now all of a sudden, this time, boom. But it does feel like, is there more to this than just spasms? You know, you'd think that we're now, well, today's Thursday, Haas. I believe if my dates are right here, I think it was 15 days ago that he was doing the weights that cause it. That's half a month now with neck spasms that almost at times seem to be getting worse, not better, because as I say, he kind of ramps up and then he skates, but then he's not even on the ice at all a couple days later. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of effort behind the scenes being made to find ways to treat whatever this is, but I don't know if they even fully know yet what they're dealing with. And everybody's just hoping, obviously, for the best. But there is reason to be concerned. But as I say, I still think that he'll play next Wednesday. But I certainly won't guarantee it.
Well, going to be an interesting one tonight. I mean, all eyes on 14.
Yes.
We'll see, Cole Perfetti, another shot to show what he can do at center, albeit with new line mates again. And then some big decisions will be made, and we'll be talking about it here on WST. And I'm sure you, Ken, and the rest of the crew have quite a bit on your plate as we get ready for next Wednesday, Mike.
We do, yeah. We mentioned we've got some new features that we're putting together. Last weekend, we had our first monthly mailbag at the Free Press. And this Saturday, Huss, Kenny and I will be debuting our new, we're going to have a weekly Saturday kind of around the NHL. It'll be very Jets focused, but there'll be some other elements to it as well. Column that'll run every Saturday in the print edition and online as well. So we're looking forward to putting our heads together and getting that column up and running. And yeah, we'll see, whether we get news tomorrow about some cuts. For folks who don't know the schedule, the Jets are practicing tomorrow. Saturday and Sunday, they're taking off. They're doing some team bonding. I think there's a fishing, although hopefully the weather cooperates. Maybe they'll bite a little better if it's raining, actually. But I believe there's some kind of fishing expedition on Saturday that they're partaking in. And I'm sure there'll be some Thanksgiving dinners consumed on Sunday. Then they'll be back Monday to practice, Tuesday to practice, and fly to Calgary. What I don't know the answer to, Huss, is do they pretty much make the team tomorrow after tonight's game? And, for the bonding and all that's going to happen, like, is that just going to be basically the roster? Or do they punt it through the weekend and make those final decisions on, say, Sunday evening or something, and come Monday kind of with the team. I don't know, but part of me wonders if they might not kind of pretty much form the roster tomorrow. Guys that are going to need waivers would go tomorrow, and they would, the Moose, they're ramping up, of course, as well. So we'll see. It could be a newsworthy day tomorrow. It also could be a quiet day and wait for the weekend, but we shall see.
Mike, we'll see you at the rink. Thanks for doing this.
You bet, Huss. Take care.
You got it. There's Mike McIntyre. Fun segment. I was feeling for those guys watching that game yesterday at Target Field. I knew they'd be losing it. But great to get to the important stories post Blue Jays with Mike here. We are going to hear from Rick Bowness in just a second, so do not go anywhere. But again, if you missed at the start of this show, big news for the Bombers. Janarion Grant is back and in the lineup for tomorrow's huge tilt with the BC Lions at BC Place. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsor of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. And Princess Auto is also where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Visit them at one of 2 Winnipeg locations or online, and make sure you're visiting the Princess Auto tailgate zone before every Winnipeg Blue Bomber home game. Got to give a shout out to our friends and pals over at Consolidated Supply. What a busy summer it's been for Joe and Spicy and the gang there. Listen, they are the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, both indoor and outdoor, and golf carts is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. Many vehicles, frankly, that aren't really golf carts, but more for industrial and commercial use. So talk to them if you've got needs there. But they've got other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. And of course, Consolidated Supply is also the leader in small engine parts and repair. So much they've got waiting for you and your business. Pop by and see them at the showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East. Or you can find out more on Consolidated Supply at their website at cte.ca. Well, Jet season is just about here. Going to get a chance to see pretty much the entire roster tonight. Been waiting to get maybe a new jersey with a new player on it. You know where to do that at Royal Sports. Thousands of pieces of Jets merchandise, all the jerseys, professional numbers and names on it. They've got that for you. And of course, as we get ready for another Bomber push, hopefully to the Grey Cup, a great selection of Winnipeg Blue Bomber merch. Tons of NFL gear there, Major League Baseball, and more, World Soccer. But with hockey season here, what you might need to be reminded on is that Royal Sports has been the hockey superstore in Winnipeg for over 40 years with absolutely everything you need, from full equipment right down to skate sharpening over at Royal Sports. They're at 750 Pembina Highway. Pop by and see them, and make sure you give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Pembina. Hey, if you're not going to the game tonight, best place you could be stepping up to is your local Boston Pizza, because we've got Jets and Sens, which you'll be able to watch with Dan Robertson on the call on TSN. And of course, we've also got a kickoff to the week in the National Football League with the struggling Bears in DC to take on the Commanders. The best place to watch the game with big screen, big sound is always your local Boston Pizza, while you enjoy ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and the latest from the Boston Pizza feature menu. And hey, if you're staying in tonight, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's get Remo back in here. We do have a great interview coming up with Jason Smith, who's the president of the Winnipeg Sea Bears, on the Sea Bears being named Franchise of the Year. He was named Executive of the Year, and just a little bit more on the magical first season. But Remo, before we sort of move on from the Jets after great visits from Brandon and Mike, we should get to some of the clips that we've sort of been talking about and hear it from the horse's mouth, as in head coach Rick Bowness.
Yeah, a lot of Rick Bowness on Nikolai Ehlers, Billy Hainala, the top topics that we've spent so much time talking about. This Ehlers injury, we'll have to see. It is preseason, so I think until he starts missing regular season games, this could all be for nothing, but certainly something to monitor. And team buildings weekend, no Banff trip this year? Are they going to be signing any documents?
They're not going to Banff, but they're doing. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll see. Maybe that'll be done in the lodge after their fishing expedition, but certainly they'll be doing some stuff as a team, getting off the ice for a couple days, and then it's go time Wednesday in Calgary, and I will be in Calgary for that game. We'll do the show from Cowtown, getting ready for the opening number 1 of 82. So it should be a fun week coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, let's go, Remo. We'll just start at the top. I mean, obviously, Ville Heinola in, Stan and Nate Schmidt out. Here's what Bones had to say about his D pairs for tonight's preseason finale.
Well, we like what Ville's done. Dylan gives him some physicality and some real presence back there. He's a veteran, so we'll see what that looks like. That's really what we're doing, and until you try it, you don't know. So, and then Sandberg's had a really good camp at P, and we know Mel's going to play with Mo. So now's the time to try and give those things a look and see what it looks like. You don't know until you try.
All right, so there's Rick Bowness talking about Ville Heinola getting in. And again, this is sort of. It was interesting to hear what Mike had to say about feeling that he, was in. I think different people have taken different things from what the coach had to say, so you can be the judge. Here's Bones a little bit more on as Remis put it, the Ville-Dilly pairing for tonight.
Well, they haven't spent a lot of time together yet. So, but Ville, the camp he's having, we just keep encouraging him to skate the puck out every chance. We don't want him to stop. He's a great skater with the puck. Don't stop. We want to play fast, get wheeling with the puck. And again, with Brendan beside him, it gives us stability back there. But you've got one guy that can wheel the puck and get it going. You get another guy who gives us a physical presence and takes care of things around our net and in the corners. And again, you just got to see what it looks like.
All right, there's Bones, and I think it might have been CJOB's Kelly Moore that had the Ville-Dilly pairing, and the Hermantown too, of course, Sandberg and Pionk playing together, both from that same small town in Minnesota. Ville Heinola is going to get a crack on PP2 today. Bones expanded a little bit on how they will improve the power play this season.
Well, all of a sudden we have Gabe, so now we got to see what that looks like. Right. So that gives us a totally different look, having a right-hand shot down by the net. Yeah. And it does. And it gets Mark on the half wall where he wants to be, and they all like Alex in the bumper position there. And but no, they've got to get more pucks on the net, but they're moving it really well. But until you see what Gabe looks like down there, right. You can't make it. You just kind of again, you got to let it go. You got to see what works and what doesn't work, and how he fits in and how he utilizes every other player. But again, we've said from day one, he's very smart. He's good down around the net. He hangs on to pucks, so you've got to give that again a little time to see how it works.
Here's a little bit more from Bones on the power play, discussing the importance of getting the PP off to a good start this season.
Want to have a good start, and power play is a big part of it. You want your power play to if they don't score, to give you some momentum. There was too many games last year where the power play didn't give us that. So regardless if the puck goes in or not, we want that power play to go out and create some offense and give us some momentum, so something we can build off. It's your penalty killing. The penalty killers go out there and do a great job. That gives you momentum. Your power play, a good power play, gives you momentum. So we want to get off on the great start, and you need your specialty teams to be a big part of that.
And just last one on that, but would you ideally you have two power play units that are going great and kind of pushing each other, competing with each other, right? That's the ideal scenario?
Yeah, it is. And then who's ever better off that night, so they'll start. They'll start the next power play. If it's the other unit and they're having a great night, then they'll start the power play.
All right, there's Rick Bowness. Now let's get back to Ville Heinola. And this is the quote that I asked Mike about. You can judge for yourself. Bones was asked if Ville Heinola has won a spot on the team.
We're going to find out Thursday night, but we're very, very happy. When I'm just talking to him again about that. He's done everything he can to make this hockey club. So we're very, very happy where he is. We love the attitude he came into with. When we talked to him over the summer, like, you're going to be given every opportunity. We played him a lot of games, played him in every situation. And like I've always said, players cut themselves if it's bad performance or getting outplayed by somebody else. And Ville certainly hasn't done either one of those. He's done a great job.
All right, so there's Rick Bowness on Ville Heinola. And I was waiting to play this clip before getting you all the why not question of the day for not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray, because it's none of us that are making the decisions. It's that guy that we just listened to. Based on what we've seen and what you just heard from Rick Bowness, What is your feeling on Ville Heinola being on the team and in the lineup for game number 1 after hearing what Rick just had to say? And, keeping in mind that I guess things can happen tonight, but talking more about the body of work. Let us know in the chat for the Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Here's a little bit more from Bones on Ville on just his growth from last season to where he's at right now heading into game number 1.
He wasn't as noticeable with the puck last year. He wasn't skating with it. He wasn't making plays. He was getting it and moving it a little too quickly. We encourage him to carry the puck. And he's got great legs and he's got good vision. He's good hands. Skate the puck out. He was a little slow moving the puck last year. And now we're seeing a guy that can, when he gets going and feels comfortable with it, skating with the puck, he's making things happen. And he's joining the rush. We didn't see enough of that last year. We want our D up, as you know. And I think I was a little nervous, a little hesitant to do that. Now he's just going. So, he just looks a lot more comfortable.
His defensive play too. That's improved.
Yeah, he's competing a lot harder in the corners. He knows he had to get stronger. So he did. He worked hard over the summer, and he's not the biggest guy out there. So using his skating, get in there first, get the puck, and get it moving. Sometimes you avoid those battles.
All right, so there's Rick Bowness on Ville Heinola. And again, your thoughts on Heinola's situation for the Why Not question of the day in the chat. We got 2 more clips from Bones, and this refers to Nikolai Ehlers' situation. First up, Bones on Alex Iafallo moving into Ehlers' spot in the lineup tonight.
We knew what we were getting in Alex, that he's a very useful player. Can play right wing, can play left wing, can move him up, can move him back, can kill penalties, and can play power play. So we're just going to keep, because of the injury to Nick, we're going to move him up there. And again, got to see what it looks like.
Alex Iafallo seeming like he might be a new bit of a utility knife, if you will, for Rick Bowness and the Winnipeg Jets. He will get that spot, as we mentioned. Morgan Barron moves back with Adam Lowry, where he's quite familiar playing with, and David Gustafson moves from presumably the press box to the left side, along with Nemetsnikov and Rasmus Kapari on line number 4. Here's the final clip, and you knew Bones would be asked about the latest on Nikolai Ehlers.
He's not 100%, and until he's 100%, we're not going to play him because we can't afford a setback on this. He'll keep getting treated, and hopefully by Monday, when we really get ready for the season, that he's 100% ready to go. But until he's 100%, we're not going to run the risk of, it's like Nate Schmidt, we're not going to run the risk of having a major setback at this time of the year.
All right, so it sounds like they're being cautious. But again, that's a little different Reem than we heard before. Like, hey, I'm hoping he comes in and says that he's ready to play, and that hasn't happened yet. I guess time will tell, as they say, and we'll find out next week as to whether he can be a full participant for Monday and Tuesday on the plane, and hopefully on that lineup card on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll have to. I mean, we can react and speculate here, but these are preseason games. They don't matter in the 82-game regular season. So, we'll see next Tuesday when we're back, because there's no show Monday. We'll see what happens. It is interesting, Huss, that he is in a regular jersey practicing. Usually when you're practicing a regular jersey, means you're good to go, but they say he's not 100%. He doesn't feel 100%, and hopefully they can figure it out. I don't know if there's going to be announcing he has sports hernia surgery again next week.
Oh my God, mute your mic.
Sorry.
Don't even go there.
Too many callbacks. The last year. So I hope he is fine to play, and we'll find out Wednesday, less than a week away.
All right. Well, game tonight, of course, 7:00 p.m. Reba and I will be there. Say hi if you bump into us, and don't forget one of the great things. Actually, we're going to get a big little behind the scenes tour before the game of everything they've done at the arena. So we'll be able to tell you about that tomorrow. One thing I have already scouted out for you all is where you can get our favorite local beer, Little Brown Jug, at the games this season. That's right, LBJ, now a partner of the Winnipeg Jets, and great news for Jets fans. Both 1919 and our favorite generic lager are available, along with 2 of the other local breweries at the new Craft Beer Corner. If you're up in the upper bowl, the Craft Beer Corner is in section 310, the corner bar on Graham and Donald side. And of course, we will be getting together with the WST crew on the other side of that Graham Mall, the section 316, 317 bar, which is not the craft beer corner, but outside of our seats for the WST pack when things get going for our first of 4 games on the 17th of October. Again, if you haven't checked that out, we do have some remaining seats in the additional seats we got in 317. So check that out. There's a link at winnipegsportstalk.com if you're listening to the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, just hit that first link for our ticket package and get yourself accounted for and joining us before the game on the 17th when we welcome back Pierre-Luc Dubois and the Los Angeles Kings. All right, we will get to the Cool Bet lines. We got an NFL game tonight to talk about. We kind of hit that in the lock shop earlier. Of course, you can hit that at the Edmonton Sports Talk feed. But right now, kind of move away from what we've been talking about the most lately, the Bombers and football, the Jets and hockey, of course, the end of the Blue Jays season, because we got a little bit of basketball to talk about. A huge, huge honor for the Sea Bears, and I don't think this surprised anyone that our basketball team, after the magical year they had entering the CBL, was both the franchise of the year, but also big congratulations to Jason Smith, the president of the Sea Bears, who won the executive of the year. And we caught up with Jason, talk a little bit about the season that was, where the organization goes from here, and I'll look back to what was such an amazing, amazing year and summer for basketball here in Winnipeg.
Heritage.
Oh, sorry, yes, 1 sec. Us?
Yep.
1 sec. I didn't.
Okay.
I screwed something up here.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that right now. Oh, I see Mike Wynn, the Wynn dog there, section 316. Mike's an OG 316
for the
and I know is going to be with us at those games next week. And again, thanks to everyone that jumped on that Jets package, because we, beyond our expectations right out the gate, continued to grow, ended up filling up all of our seat allotment in 316, and now we've got some just across the aisle in 317. So if you've kind of been on the fence, you're thinking, oh, I'd love to get a package, but I can't do 10 games. How about 4 games, 4 of the best games of the year, and doing it the best corner of the upper bowl with your friends from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Cannot wait for that. So it's all there. So yeah, we called up, we hooked up with Jason a little bit before the show to talk about everything that transpired for the Sea Bears, the aftermath of the season, and of course, and Jason's got a really, really interesting background as well, more on the event side, putting on the Heritage Classic, the Grey Cup Festival, the whiteout parties. This is a little different now because, you finish it up and now it's like, all right, we're back at it and doing it again. So, Remo, are we good to go?
Yeah, 1 sec. Not yet.
Not yet. All right. We're just going to be getting it. Let's see. What do we have? The Remo, this is a perfect opportunity to blame Connor the intern. Definitely not on Connor today. Although we'll look forward to getting Connor back in the mix in the next few days, and hopefully we'll have Connor come up and join everybody on the 17th before we drop the puck on, I guess it's the second game of the home schedule after the home opener. And if you missed it, I know the Jets are excited. They've got Petrick performing at the party in the Plaza beforehand, which should be a real fun. The Sea Bears, speaking of the party in the Plaza, did a great job of some of their pre-game festivities. And while we won't be able to party in the Plaza all year, hopefully the weather will cooperate for us, and we could have a real nice day on the 14th before the Jets drop the puck at home for the first time against Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers. So yeah, let's see what else we got in chat. Let me know when we're ready to go here. We've got Mike C. There was no reference to Huss's suggestion. Sorry. Oh, geez. Let's see. What's Dan Jets fan talking about my suggestion? Muting.
Oh, because you said that you wanted me to shut up after the Ehlers joke.
After you mentioned.
And so then I was like, I was like, people are throwing up the mute icon in chat. I was like, what? People throw that icon up, and I'm like, what's going on here? We're good now.
Okay, we're good to go. Okay, well, I was about to say I'll get to the Cool Bet lines right now, but this is a fun conversation. Check it out, folks. Jason Smith, president of the Winnipeg Sea Bears, who joined us just a little earlier today to talk about the honors that the organization has won and a look ahead to the future for pro hoops in Winnipeg. Jason, so great to have you on the program. How are you?
I'm great. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, there's some congratulations in order. First and foremost, this past week, congratulations to you for being named CEBL Executive of the Year, and to you and your entire team for the Franchise of the Year. I cannot say it's surprising considering the amazing debut season you had, but must be nice to get that recognition.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously very flattering to be recognized by the league as well. We had a great season. I will posit that the bigger one for us is Franchise of the Year, which is really a representation of all of the work that our staff did in a very short time to get us organized. In time to play basketball, our coach and our players who had, I would argue, a pretty Cinderella first season, fell a little tiny bit short at the end, but yeah, that's really the one that we're most proud of, is be recognized for how well the team and the franchise did in this first year.
Well, I can tell you what, I don't think there's any question if they gave out an award for the fan base of the year that Winnipeggers and Manitobans would be getting that one as well. Overall, a magical debut season for your franchise and this team and the return of pro basketball to Winnipeg. Take us back to starting this. What were your expectations or goals, and how much or did Winnipeg blow them away game by game throughout the season?
The start was actually before last summer. We were David Asper approached me and asked if I would consider working with him on a bit of a feasibility study on bringing basketball back to Winnipeg. And I will say that from the start of those conversations, it was evident how engaged and excited and into it we thought Manitobans would be and Winnipeggers would be if we brought a basketball team back here, which is obviously why he took the leap and brought the team here. But yeah, I will say that the response from the fans was far exceeded our expectations. We did some projections, as you do at the beginning, put some budgets together, and went to Canada Life Centre to talk with them about hosting the games. Never in our wildest dreams, if I'm totally honest, did we expect we would get up to, by the playoff game, 10,500 fans in the building. Definitely exceeded the expectations and even our wildest dreams. So yeah, really appreciative of the fans here in Winnipeg and across Manitoba who embraced the team and helped us make this first season so memorable.
I remember going to the first game and coming back, and we were talking about it on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and at that point, going into the Sea Bears opening tilt, I believe the CEBL record, individual attendance record, was 4,400 or thereabouts. And we were talking about it on the show. And I was really bullish on this. I saw the crowds. I think probably got a pretty good pulse of the sports community here and the demand and the excitement for it. But I said on this show, I think at the end of this season, this team is not only going to beat this record, they're going to average more than 4,400. But even I, who was as bullish, I think, as anyone on it, was amazed at how it grew throughout the season. And those final few games in the playoff game, honestly, in a lot of ways, took the CEBL, in my opinion, to a whole nother level. What was it like feeling the momentum game by game throughout the season, and then having probably the very great option of expanding the arena, adding more seats, and seeing you guys, raise the bar so high compared to where this league was before the Sea Bears were part of it?
Yeah, I'll tell you quickly before I answer the anecdotally fun for us, because after that first game, we actually watched your episode where you talked about how you thought it was going to be a big success, which for us, watching the media, the fans were amazing. But, when you start something in the early days, you just really kind of a wing and a prayer idea. And so it was quite exciting for all of us, to be honest, to have folks like yourself who are at that first game. You're really, hopefully, sort of first impressions of things were just so positive. That was a really nice moment for us, to be honest. And then, yeah, it's, and you're right, we did average over it used to be Vancouver had 4,400. in the end, we actually averaged over that. And it was, I said, it was just an amazing question of how did it feel along the way. I'll be totally honest. It's all a bit of a blur. Like we were, as I said, learning from game to game how to do this and hopefully do it better at each game. And every time it grew, we just sort of tried to figure out what the next step was, what we needed to add, how we needed to work with the venue to manage the increase in size. And actually, yeah, I think we could have actually opened the upper deck of Canada Life Centre at the final game of the season, but we really were interested in trying to give that playoff game some real gravitas by making that the first time ever that we opened the upper deck. But yeah, again, I just could never have even fathomed what was going to happen. And we just tried to keep it in perspective along the way. So I barely remember, other than being obviously elated along the way that it was going so well, but the rest of it's a bit of a blur.
I've got to ask you a personal question. And you can maybe, mention to listeners about your background, but you've been so involved in events. I mean, Grey Cup, Heritage Classic, White Oak parties, those sort of things. But those are always on an event management and organization. This is part of a team where not only are you probably on a day-to-day basis concerned about tickets and all running it, but at the end of the day, you win or you lose, and there's a lot that goes into it. How different was it for you to be kind of in on the winning and the losing and the ups and downs of the team, as well as running the operation and everything that comes with it?
Yeah. Funny you mention it, because that was the biggest change for me this year. When we were doing this along the way, I often said to people who would say to me, you do events, but you're doing basketball now. What's that about? I was saying that, the reality is that a lot of what we do in event planning is the party around it. We let the players take care of what's happening on the ice or on the court or whatever. So I was really just saying this to me is just like 10 big events, 10 basketball games in Canada Life Centre. So I was approaching it exactly like that and doing everything that we've done for Whiteout Party or Heritage Classic or whatever. But you're right. I did not anticipate the emotional roller coaster of your team winning and losing. Not that I didn't care if our teams won when we were doing those events, but it was a different animal altogether. And yeah, the most interesting part for me, and I've said it to many people, is managing the emotional highs and lows of watching your team do well or not do so well was an unexpected part and a bit of a learning curve for me as well to figure out how to manage that part of the thing. So
one of the amazing parts of the success of the Seabears this year was the very direct connection to the community. And I think of Chad Posthumus, who was the first player signed, who came on with us right afterwards and talked about his excitement to play in front of friends and family. Bison star Simon Hildebrand, who had just an incredible season as a 19-year-old. And obviously what Mike did, with the entire club. How big a part of the success of the team do you think were not just the local players, but the team overall? And for folks that didn't know, let us into a little bit on what this team was doing when they weren't playing, because if you were paying attention, there was a ton of community involvement and a lot of different ways that these guys, even for a short time, got involved in the community for guys that, were not from Winnipeg or Canada.
Yeah. Well, a couple of parts to that answer. I mean, first of all, Mike Taylor, the reason we hired Mike Taylor was we had several conversations with him, and he really embodied what we wanted this franchise to be about. We talked about not just being hopefully a positive influence on the basketball court, but also being an influence out in the community. One of the nice things about the CEBL is that the players are able to, I would argue, be a little more accessible out in the community. So, and actually in their contract, a little known fact is in every player's contract in the CEBL, they have to commit to 30 hours of community work, community service, or community engagement, or whatever. So we're basically writing into the contract, or the CEBL is into their contracts, that the importance that we place on making the community a better place and being out and being accessible and working with community groups to help hopefully what we're doing in the province be better. And I said Mike was a huge proponent of that. He made it very easy for us to get the players out to things. He himself did a couple of coaches clinics. He's actually doing one for Basketball Manitoba coming up in the next couple of weeks. He's just a well-rounded person who really believes in the same things as we do. And so and the players too really bought into it. He was I think if you noticed as well too, we were, I think, the only we made one transaction in the whole season. Other teams were bringing guys in, taking guys
crazy.
out. Mike did not change a single thing. We brought one guy back. So we used one transaction to bring a player back in, but he did not want to change his team even. He was all about the family, all about the culture that he was building, live or die by it, win or lose. He was going to build that kind of team. And that also, I think, really translated to what we did out in the community.
Well, it was, listen, it was successful on so many different levels. You just came back from these CEBL meetings where you got the award, the franchise got the award. I'm interested in the feedback you got from the rest of the league because the Seabears really, in a lot of ways, raised the bar. And I know for a fact that was everyone around the league was paying attention to it and probably hoping that they could get to some of the levels that the Seabears and Winnipeg have set.
Yeah, I will also, I thankful again, which I sort of said at the outset, but just to make sure that I say it, the staff here at the Seabears were incredible this summer. Everybody, some of them had worked here for 6 weeks, 2 months or whatever when we went into this. Same thing for all of the other presidents across the CEBL. We announced the team on November 30th. By the time we got all the ducks in a row and were able to do it, and we played our first basketball game on May 27th. That is not a lot of time to get a pro sports team up and running. And the people across the CEBL, the other presidents, the league office itself, everybody was so supportive and helpful and willing to, if I need hey, do you have a spreadsheet that so I can cut down on the amount of time it takes me to do this? Everybody shared, everybody was really gracious and continued to be this week at this actually award that is voted on by the other teams and by some of the senior brass at the CEBL office. So many thanks to them for supporting us and then recognizing what a great season we had with our fans here.
Jason Smith, president of the Winnipeg Seabears, executive and franchise of the year for the Seabears debut year in the CEBL, with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So now it's on to year 2. Tell us about what's happening right now at the Seabears offices, what you guys are focusing in on, and I guess the excitement level to get back and do it again in bigger and better in 2024.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned earlier we were talking a little bit about my previous background. The other interesting, at least to me, point is that everything I've done as well is a weekend. Like Grey Cup comes and goes. I guess whiteout parties extended a little bit, but this is one of the first times I've had to do one of these major events and then afterwards say, okay, how do we do it better next time? So that's going to be an interesting part. But yeah, we're doing, I think, what probably most teams do in the offseason. We're connecting with our season ticket base, which I'm excited to report. We've actually doubled the number of season tickets already for next year than we had this year. So that's a big already step for us. We're making quick lap around the city to thank the sponsors who came in last year pretty much on a leap of faith. As I mentioned, nobody really knew what this was going to be. And the businesses that were early adopters and supported us in what we were saying we were going to do, I think took a leap of faith. So we're obviously going around to thank them and hope they'll come back to see us next year. And then we're actually, if I'm 100% honest, we're just now putting the processes in place to actually run a long-term business, because really our focus for that first 5 months was literally on, we need a coach, we need an office, we need some basketball players, we need some merchandise. Like we really were hyper fixated on the in-game experience and the season itself. And now we have a little bit of time to breathe and say, how are we going to run this business? We're going to hopefully also do some community event stuff across the winter. So that also is a bit of what we're focusing on too. But yeah, mostly just trying to figure out how to make this a sustainable business over the winter and over many years to come.
I was down at the Sport Manitoba building a couple of weeks ago, getting a bit of a tour and talking to the folks there about just everything that's going on. And, we kind of got a bit of a look into the Seabears HQ, what the players did, but then saw all the basketball happening on the courts there, the teams that were practicing. And we sort of really are into Manitoba basketball season right now. And I'm sure we'll see more and more of the Seabears off season. throughout the year at various events. Jason, listen, it was an incredible season. Cannot wait for the encore. Can't let you come on talk about all the great success and mentioning doubling the season ticket base without letting people know if they do want to get tickets and whatnot and get on board, how they can do that. There's people listening that want more information on being part of the crew for next season. Where do they go?
Well, they obviously, we'd love to have them. And quickly, before we jump to that, I will say this weekend is Lakehead is here, Thunder Bay, playing U of M. So both our U Sport players are going to be on the court this weekend. Tyler Sagal and Simon Hildebrand. Mike Rainbow, who had a big part in helping our coach get acclimated. So it's a fun weekend for basketball if anybody is interested to go check out the U of M Lakehead game. For more information on the Sea Bears, the easiest way is probably to go to seabears.ca. And in there, you can find information about season tickets. You can find a phone number and a link to contact our ticketing folks. Prices and all that are up there. And yeah, I appreciate all the support everybody's given us, and hopefully they'll come see us for a game next year, or a few.
It was, man, it was so much fun, and we're looking forward to getting back to Canada Life Center next summer for year 2 of Sea Bears basketball. And I'm glad you mentioned that Lakehead Bison game in a minute, because we saw the incredible talent of those two players, Sean Moranin with the U of W as well. So hopefully this gives a nice bump to the university and the U Sports level basketball as well, and get people even more excited for the next season. Jason, have a great one. Congratulations again, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate the coverage, guys, and I'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully soon.
All right, great stuff, and congratulations again to the Sea Bears for an amazing inaugural season, bringing pro hoops back to Winnipeg. All right, we are going to finish this up real quick, but got to get to the lines for these games on the weekend. And looking at the CFL, the early game had been off the board all week. Now it's on. I'm not sure whether we can take from this that the Argos are going to put Chad Kelly back in, but the Argos are 7.5-point favorites at home against the Elks. That's the 6:00 game tomorrow evening. And then the main event is late night. Bombers, 2-point underdogs in BC against the BC Lions over at Coolbet. And the money line is plus 110. That was plus 112, was down to plus 105, back to 112. Now it's at 110. I still think there'll be some Bomber money coming in before the game. So I just got on the money line today at this number, feeling pretty good. And the over-under 51.5. I think there's going to be some points in this game. Do like the over as well. Riders, 3.5-point favorites against the Ticats. And the Alouettes, 6.5-point favorites against the Red Blacks. And we do have the Lock Shop Partner Parlay up for the CFL. It's Bombers to win, Winnipeg and BC over 51.5, and the Red Blacks plus 6.5. That one is in at 6-1 plus 600. Hopefully we can go back-to-back in the Lock Shop after a beauty win last week with the Bombers in it. All right. By the way, we've also got I'm going to get to the NFL game tonight in a second, but we all put together our pick, and we put in a little partner parlay for the game tonight. Brian Robinson Jr., anytime touchdown scorer. Logan Thomas, over 25 yards receiving. And Cole Kmet, 4+ receptions. That one's in at plus 540. I'm going to jump on that one as well. And as far as this game goes tonight, the Commanders are 6-point favorites against the Bears. Love the Commanders in this game tonight. And not just because they're playing the Bears. I think they're actually half decent, Reem. And I like Sam Howell a lot more than what I've seen anything from that Bears offense, despite putting up 28 before blowing it against the Broncos last week.
Yeah, the Bears, they lost. Just when I was like, oh, the Broncos are so embarrassing. They came back and beat the Bears, although Justin Fields finally showing some of that promise that he had shown last year, but it just hasn't been able to put it together. They traded for DJ Moore, and he thought the offense would look good, but it's been the defense. They gave up 40+ and a disaster of a game to KC, and Russell Wilson and the Broncos took it to him last week. So yeah, I would be on the Commanders tonight as well. Are you on the over 5 field goals, Huss? I see that one on the Cool Bet Daily Exclusives.
I'm just on the over 3.5 field goals, so 4 or more. That one's always the primetime field goal bet's sort of our thing. We always do it. And it's funny, neither of these teams have kicked very many field goals, and yet the odds are way lower for it tonight than it normally is. It's just plus 105. That being said, still in on it. Again, you can check out all the lines at coolbet.com. And if you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Big lock shop tomorrow at noon. Our weekly NFL picks. We'll put together a few more fun ones for the Coolbet exclusive sections in the meantime. But right now, if you're still with us on YouTube, get ready. We're going to fire everybody over to the Bonfire channel. Bombing and Walby are chopping it up, getting ready for tomorrow's Bombers-Lions tilt. So we'll take you there. Thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Thanks to Rewucki. Thanks to Mike McIntyre and Jason Smith for popping by. Of course, thanks as always to Michael Remis. Might see you at the game tonight, folks. And if not, we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Get ready for Bombers and Lions. And a little recap of the Jets preseason and a look ahead to the regular season. We'll see you tomorrow for a big Friday show at 1. Enjoy what the fellas have coming up right now over on Bonfire, talking Bombers-Lions.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.